Greetings, dear ones. I apologize for the delay, some technical challenges. It looks like some changes have been made once again since I was live on here on Facebook. Welcome to all who are joining me live and those who are listening in the future, or rather feeling in the future, because this is all about you being able to feel into your particular individual, unique flavor of the collective consciousness theme of this week, how it has played out in your life, how it is playing out in your life even now, and what happens when you are able to transmute that, and how it not only changes your life, but is also directly affecting how that issue, wound, etc., is presenting on the larger national stage and global stage as well. So let's get to our theme, because we were a little late starting today, and it is you are supposed to choose me. Now, that sounds really interesting in so far as, well, I'd love to hear back, anybody that's listening, what that does sound like. But this is in regard to when we are children, our parents are supposed to choose what is best for us, taking us into account, not what is best for them, most convenient, easiest, what have you. And unfortunately, that's what gets chosen over what is actually ideal for a child, by taking into account, by really feeling into and tuning into that child and what is going on inside of them, what are the best choices to be able to make that child have a full out experience of security and safety on all levels of their being. In current day psychology, it's called secure attachment patterns, but it's so much more than that. Children, animals, nature are exquisitely sensitive beings. And it doesn't take a lot to be able to cause great harm. And when that harm is repeated again and again and again and again, it creates a deep sense of who you are as a child, how the world works in relation to you, your value, your ability to be able to express yourself, be who you are, make the choices that are truly best for you, instead of what is best for someone else, instead of what looks best, instead of what society says is best, instead of what experts say is what's best, better, rather than what trends say is best. And when we're little, we lose the ability to discern what is best for us, because we've had to shut that down. We all come in with a very, very deep cellular, biological, spiritual, energetic, primordial, primal knowing. And I use that word, but please do not think that it's connected to knowledge or intellect. This is literally our little bodies, our little beings, our little energy fields are set up to want, need, and expect certain things to come back to us and for us. And when that doesn't happen, it's kind of like, on the old, those of you who remember, or maybe they're still around, pinball machines. And at one point or another, the pinball machine, either for whatever reason, goes into tilt, and it no longer functions. It's out of whack. And that is very close to what happens to our little systems when we are not receiving what our being is expecting. I've likened it many times in these talks and in other places as, a child being hungry, a child needing something to drink, for example, and instead of getting food, they're handed cardboard. Or, instead of getting something to drink, they are told to just swallow. And I know that sounds like a radical response, but a child's system experiences a similar sensation inside when what they are expecting as far as being able to feel a level of security and safety that these beings, these large beings that I am completely and utterly dependent upon. And again, there's no brain. I'm putting words to a sensation. That these people that I depend on for my very life are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And a child expects a parent to choose for and on their behalf. And instead, so often the parent chooses what works for them. They choose what experts determine are best for a child. They choose what are the latest trends. And I'll give you some examples of that so that it's just not talking in the air. Trends. I was at an appointment this week, and a young lady that works there had her child there, and she, he would do a certain thing and she'd say, "Good job, good job." And that is the current trend of how to respond to a child who is doing something that pleases you, something that is within our parameters of what is a good child. And what happens is that child continues to connect being good, acceptance, pleasure from the parent as a job, as work. And it continues on throughout their life. I know it seems like a little thing, but this good job, good job, good job is being embedded into a child not only as, oh, I like you doing that, I like you doing that, I like when you do that, I like you for doing that, that pleases me. So then the child is dependent upon pleasing or doing good or doing a good job in order to feel safe, cared about, seen, etc., etc. Instead of, for example, just simply delighting in whatever the child does. At the time this week when I was at this appointment, the child took, I don't even remember what it was, and he dropped it into a place which, would be difficult to get it out of. But, luckily the mother did not scold him for that. But this is a child's curiosity. It is a child's way of exploring and discovering. And too often not, we're telling them, don't do this, don't do that, stop doing this, that's not good. I only like it when you are well behaved. I only like it when you, and it may not even be those words, but the energy is there. So instead of their little systems being able to be free to find out what something or how something works or what happens when you drop something in somewhere, and instead of looking to, did I do wrong, did I do right, are they okay with that, it's just, wow, that's what happens. So, and as a matter of fact, what was that this week again? Oh, it was last night on the Colbert Show, and the last one, and Neil deGrasse Tyson was there, and he there was a bit where he was describing him as just a big curious. He was describing himself as big curious children become scientists. And it's that curiosity, it's the ability to explore without the societal or behavioral constraints. That doesn't mean letting a child go into some danger zone. On the contrary, whether it's a pet or a child, you make it so that the child doesn't even know they're being moved away from danger. A client this week has a new puppy they're getting from a breeder, and the breeder and this trainer are saying to put them in a crate, put them in a crate, crate them. Is just my skin crawls when I hear this. That it's for their security, and when in fact it is more so for convenience, for avoidance of bad behavior, which takes time and it takes training and it takes effort. And people want their lives to be easy, and they want to be able to do what they want to do when they want to do it. So crating an animal is so much easier, or getting a child to behave, or having some sort of, even to the extreme of medication, helping their behavior. And we do move in a very fast society. We do have very full lives. But is that actually the ideal? We are moving into a time when time is actually changing. And the constraints of a linear 24-hour, 9 to 5 society is malleable. It is changing. We had the experience several years ago of COVID that completely changed our timing in the world. It completely changed our sense of time on many levels and in many ways. And now with institutions, governments all being dismantled, there is now an opportunity to create a world that works with our individual timing and still are able to be productive and do what we love and interact with the rest of society without those artificially created time frames and time constraints. 9 to 5 is a pretty recent structure. It did not certainly occur even 100 years ago, and certainly not more. We moved with the seasons and the cycles of the earth. We moved with what was the task at hand in the day. And we experienced a lot of that during COVID, which was one of the many, many reasons for us to have called it in. So, to give you a couple examples, concrete examples this week. And when I talk about a collective consciousness theme, it is something that we are all addressing. We are all working in our own particular way. And it shows up with clients, it shows up with colleagues, it shows up with friends in my world. And this has been going on for 25, 27 years. And it's hard to say, I used to, when I first started doing this, it was the lesson du jour, but I don't align with lessons because that implies an outer source requiring something of us, which there certainly isn't in a completely free will universe full of freedom. So that isn't the case. And that collective consciousness theme can be a week long, can be a couple weeks long, it can be a month long, depending on what the particular issue is. And this theme this week of you are supposed to choose me, it's been showing up with clients. I had one client, for example, her mother was very, very abusive, verbally, mentally, energetically, and this client of mine is still, of course, under the patterning of that. But what was shown up this week more than anything, because in her work, there is a particular person who, well, her overall theme when coming in was the disrespect that she's feeling from coworkers and people in her environment. And when we dug a little bit deeper, and in the work that I do with clients, it is they themselves tuning in, learning how to hear, feel, receive information from their body, their energy field, their unconscious, their subconscious, their beyond conscious. And we forget that language. We have to shut down that languaging because it's connected to, directly to, or coming from that part of us that is saying this isn't right. This is not supposed to be this way. You are not supposed to be doing this to me. You're not supposed to be treating me this way. You're not supposed to be behaving towards me this way. And again, when I say those words, this is far before any rational or thinking process. This is our, again, our little bodies, our little energy fields, our little emotional bodies. And it is saying, this is our innate, this direct line of communication to our soul. It's saying, oh, this is not right. Oh, this doesn't feel good. Oh, this isn't supposed to be the response that I should get. And so when it happens again and again and again, we don't have much choice. We are trapped in those situations. We have no power over what these big people do. We have no leverage and no control. So the only thing we can do is shut down that part of us, that voice, let's say, that is saying this is wrong, this doesn't feel good, this isn't the way it's supposed to be. And within that is also our means of communication, because it's our bodies that is saying that, our little biological bodies. It is our energy fields, our very young energy fields. It is our spiritual body that is experience. This is not right. This is not the way it's supposed to be. So our only choice, because it's going to happen again and again and again, our system on a deep unconscious level knows that, and we are trapped there for however many, 15, 18 more years. So the only thing we can do is shut down that voice, shut down that knowing, and disconnect from the information that's coming from our bodies, our energy fields, our spiritual bodies, our primordial human selves. And as a result, we then tend to follow the pattern. Oh, this is what they like. This is what I must be. This is what they don't like. This is what I must stop being. Oh, this is what the current trends are. Maybe if I do all of that, maybe then I'll be, accepted. I'll be loved. I'll be wanted. I'll be important. I'll matter in the world. Or going by, this is what society says you must do. You must get an education. You must do this. You must do that. You must have a job. You must, over and over and over again, all of these musts. It's the same thing as a child experiencing, oh, unless I do, unless I am, unless I don't, unless I cease being, then they won't. And again, you can fill in those blanks because it's very, very individual, very, very unique. So this client that's, experiencing this in her work and in her environment, and the person then, if she, objects or disagrees with this person, they then scream at her and vent a lot of anger, which is certainly what she experienced as a child from her mother. And her tendency then, her response, just as it was when she was a child, was to retreat and behave and do what she's supposed to do, or what she thinks her mother expects of her. And so she's finding herself doing that, of course, in her everyday environment. And as this piece is then transmuted, well, let me back up a little bit. The real wounding in this instance was not entirely what her mother did, but it was the realization in this particular session of how her father knew what was going on and chose what was convenient for him, which was to keep himself in good with his wife, and then therefore choose to not say anything, to not interfere, to not cease, to not stop the abuse, even though he knew it was going on. And I guarantee you, in every single instance, the other parent knows it's going on. So her real wound, excuse me, in this instance, was that she was not receiving the protection from the male energy that whose core principle is protection. So she never learned then, therefore, any sort of ability to protect herself. And that in this particular instance, as this piece was transmuted, now when she finds herself in that situation with this coworker or with anyone else, then she's able to, and that doesn't have to be in a horrible, ugly, demanding way. Just know that's not the way this is going to be handled. I'm happy to discuss something with you, but until you're able to have that discussion with me, let's give it some time. I'll step away and we can come back when you are in a more adult level of communicating. And that's just one instance. Excuse me. Another client, for example, this week, excuse me, was that the parent constantly chose his own convenience and what he preferred doing, and that included his alcohol addiction. And I know that it's classified as an illness nowadays, and therefore, we don't have the ability to choose, but we all do in any given instance. And when you are taking a child into account, when you are putting that child first, it really goes far to being able to change habits, change patterns, change ways. And so this particular client, it was not only his alcoholism, but it was his venting of rage and anger. And so she learned to just have to take care of herself and have to fix things and have to take care of other members of the family and have to take on the work and the worry of things that were far, far, far beyond her years. And she was left basically then therefore alone, because this and many other things disabled her mother from any sort of action or reaction. So she was on her own. She had to figure it out on her own. She had to do it on her own. She had to, for example, she would often come home and there was no food prepared. Laundry wasn't done. And we're talking about a very young child. And so she took on those tasks because her father wasn't meeting his responsibilities, and her mother therefore, or wasn't in her way meeting the responsibilities. So then this client then therefore had this always having to do things on her own, just being completely spread out, taking care of everyone and everything. And so, as that piece is transmuted, and she is then able to choose for herself. In other words, I'm choosing me in this instance. And that isn't a selfish choice. It is what is best for me in this moment. And in this particular instance, it is having her home in such a way that she feels safe and comfortable and happy and well. And one of her universal archetypes is beauty. So having that reflected in her home. And this wasn't being honored and respected and met by her husband. So she's needing and wanting him to do so, and in that needing and wanting that comes from childhood, he's feeling the pull and unconsciously repeating patterns of his own childhood. And so the house and the home was not happening in the way that she needed and wanted. And when she is then making her choice, I need this, I want this is what is going to give me peace and wellness and be able to be who I am and do the work that I love. And it doesn't even mean that she's going to divorce or move out or anything, but this is an internal choice making that comes through the transmutation of this deep wound, through the emotional intensity of the experience of the child. This isn't, please understand, whenever I speak about this isn't just about getting over childhood stuff. This isn't about going into trauma and having some sort of way of dealing with it. On the contrary, we set these things up for ourselves in a beautifully designed manner, so that when we were adults, we would have the capacity, both mental, physical, and emotional, as well as energetic, to be able to go into these places, down and in and through these deep emotional wounds, and transmute them. Not just go and touch into them and be aware of them and then try to handle them and control them, but instead to truly transmute them, so that you are then in a relationship with yourself and the world in such a way that you are living the sole purpose of that wounding. So, for example, in the first instance with the client who just, retreats at this onslaught of loudness and anger, etc., and when she is able to transmute that and realize that, not just realize, but have the felt sense of valuing and respect and care for herself, that she will not allow herself to be put in those situations, then she is standing in a truth that allows for her to speak not only to that person, but at this particular instance, this person does a great deal of spiritual teaching. So now she is able to speak with a level of depth and spiritual wisdom, spiritual knowing, so that when she teaches, that is actually being felt and experienced by the recipients, and thereby being able to assist and help them to grow and become who they are. In the second example I cited, this client, in making herself, choosing herself and having a home where she feels comfortable and well and can express this inner soul aspect, essence aspect of her, of beauty around her, she is able to do so for others because she happens to be in the artistic design world. And As a result, she not only uses that universal archetype of beauty, but with this level of security and creating internal protection, not from something, but for self, then she's able to design homes and inner spaces for other people from a wholly new place, from a utilizing her universal archetype of beauty and her knowledge of universal mathematics to create not only a beautiful environment, but unbeknownst even maybe to her clients, it's being imbued with energetics of protection and security and, um, coziness, even if the house is huge. So there are, and this gives her great joy. So every wound that we have, you had a very specific soul purpose in laying that out for yourself to give yourself the opportunity to transmute it and then be living from that soul's purpose and be living from the expression of your true essence in that particular form. And we have many of them. And this is the evolutionary process that we're experiencing, that we're going through on a national and global basis. So that ultimately we are truly functioning from and through and as our true nature, our true selves, our soul self, if you will. Not separating soul and spirit from human. On the contrary, that's why we came here. That's why this earth is the greatest game in the universe. Because it is here that we have the opportunity through this incredible, apparently chaotic, horrible times. It is also such a time of change that we can actually bring more of our spiritual, energetic soul self in and through us as humans, living that multi-existential us in this everyday reality. And not only that, but when and as we are more of ourselves, we have more of our divine nature in and through our everyday lives, we are rewriting reality. We are creating reality in the way that we desire it to be. And it is as plastic and flexible and malleable as one can imagine. And physics are backing us up. One of the helpers that we have this week is, and I do have to look at my notes so I don't mispronounce it, amplituhedron. Amplituhedron. And it is a current geometric. Let me see if I can pull it up and try to read it. It is, come on. The foundation of our galaxy, of our reality, might be a hidden shape. For decades, physicists have used thousands of complicated Feynman diagrams to calculate how subatomic particles interact. But a new discovery, revolutionary discovery called the amplituhedron, has changed the game. And when this isn't just a clever math trick, it is a fundamental shift in how we see the universe. The amplituhedron doesn't rely on the traditional ideas of space and time to work. In fact, it suggests that space-time and quantum mechanics aren't the starting point of reality, but are actually properties that emerge from a deeper geometric source. It is like finding out that the entire movie of the universe is being projected from a single, intricate frame of film. And I will tell you that colleagues and I have been working probably it's been over 2 years, maybe close to 2.5, when we first encountered an entirely new concept of the universe. It's as if the Big Bang, the moment when the Big Bang occurred, which didn't actually happen, but that's another talk, that there's an entirely new way for the universe, an entirely new basis of the universe, an entirely new concept of the universe. It is still within a level of polarity and duality, but not in the way that we have been exploring it for the past thousands, tens of thousands of years. And along with that has come new laws of the universe, new physics, new forms, and it's now moving into a new way of matter. And it's interesting that this is what colleagues and I have been exploring and encountering over the past 2.5 years, and now this shows up, well, many things, but the amplituhedron, where it's an entirely new basis of the universe. There's another little idea that I wanted to bring forward. We are beginning to see a world where the universe is not a collection of objects moving through space, but a manifestation of pure mathematics. If geometry is the true language of the cosmos, then the smallest shapes might hold the answers to the biggest questions we have ever asked, i.e., subatomic particles and string theory and more. So it's always fascinating to me and fun when I'm working with colleagues and we encounter something in the universe, and then boom, the next day an article will come across my desk or something. This popped up on through a Facebook reel that not only reinforces but brings factual physical evidence of what we were experiencing energetically. And my clients are used to having this hypersynchronicity happen in their lives as they're working with things, and boom, it is a confirmation, it is an experience, not just a confirmation, it is an experience of a deeper connection that one has with all that is here, which is part of the all, but we do not recognize things, nature, leaves, plants as beings, and therefore are not able to receive from them all that is being offered. And I wish I could convey, certainly not in this little space of time, the amount of offering, the types of offering, the constancy in every single moment of offering by people, places, things here in our world. We walk in a hall of mirrors. Everything is here for us. But it isn't until we have such levels of feeling and knowing and communication and connection and relationship to our inner verse that we will experience, feel, be able to hear the outer universe. And that is what I see coming forth every single day. Little by little, this pain, these horrors, these abuses that are going on a national and global basis are causing people to feel. And when you feel, you are compelled to then make a choice. You can know about something. Oh, that's a shame. Oh, that's terrible. Oh my. But when it's happening to you, as you well know in your life, then you act. Then you choose. Then you react to the situation And ideally, the more you're able to transmute and transfigure these pieces within you, the more you are able to choose for you. And when you choose for and on your behalf, it is jaw-dropping how everything else and everyone else benefits, and it all falls into place. When we are choosing from a false place of ourselves or a taught, learned place of who we are, then problems happen. Then obstacles get in our way. Then we are forced to behave or respond through our defense system, which learned how to do so in those instances where it was being put upon us as a child. I hope that makes sense and that you can relate to that. And I invite you to look in your life, because it's not only in your personal life. I'm seeing this. You are supposed to choose me. Certainly with, I've personally had a lot of encounters with credit card companies and banks this week. And more often, when those companies choose greed, they choose the bottom line of profit versus taking care of their customers, we suffer, yes, but I have a choice. And in that choice, I am pulling my money from those corporations and from those banks that are choosing themselves, that are choosing this old pyramidal structure where, just get to the top, own as much as you can, use whatever resources, squash anyone and everything that is, human on your way. And as a result, I am aligning with those companies and those banks and businesses that do not do so. I found this on a very individual basis with a very small company, one that went out of their way to honor and had full integrity in an offer that they made, and another company who would not, a small company, who wouldn't even take responsibility for their mistake. So it's across the board. We can see that in representatives in our government who are choosing, like my client's father, who chose to go with the abuser because it worked for him. They're choosing to follow and to allow abuse, harm, thievery, etc., because it works for them. And then there are the others who are, again, self-serving. I don't want my campaign to suffer. I want to be able to be reelected. So I'm going to go ahead and do this no matter the cost to the, I was going to say to the child, but it's the same thing. No matter the cost to my constituents, no matter the cost to the people. Because it works for me. So this selfish choosing. So we find, like, again, what's happening, this, lawlessness and lack of decency and right action or right behavior. And, someone on Facebook is saying, yes, we are demanding this, but we're not. We're not demanding it. We're demanding it like a child would, just being able, I'm so angry, I can't, it's wrong, you're not supposed to themselves, or in this case we're screaming it on social media or with one another. But are we demanding by deciding where we're going to put our dollars, demanding by contacting all of these representatives and telling them how upset, how in disagreement we are, going to our township council meetings and speaking up? This is the lesson, if you will. This is the learning. This is the transmutation of not having parental choice for and on our behalf. Is us being able to. And we have another great helper this week is One of the decks that I use on occasion is called The Sacred Traveler by Denise Lynn. And this one today is Go Deep, Explore Your Roots. And the message was very much about being able to be deeply rooted in yourself and in what is truly essential. Remember what's important in life and let go of everything else. The busyness and the frenetic pace of life, which goes back to what I was bringing forward at the very beginning as far as time and our time and what is time. Are we going to determine how timing is for us and in the new world? Look deep into the situation. Look deeper into the situations and relationships in your life. Explore your roots. Something that seems closed may in fact be open. And another section, sometimes the voyage is fraught with activity. There's so many places to go and things that have to be, that personal energy gets scattered. It's simply a matter of leaning against a tree and imagining yourself reaching deep into the earth and deep into the roots. And this is about the roots of you, and we're talking about that today. The roots of all of the issues that are presenting in your life go back initially in this human form through your childhood wounds. But again, when you go deeper into the roots, there is a soul connection. There is a soul purpose. You designed it exactly the way you wanted to be able to bring more of your soul self, your true nature, your otherworldly beings in here. Believe in yourself, hold firm to what you know to be true. You're like the ancient oak with its roots deep in the earth. You are noble, valiant, and strong. And that was one of them. And the other is the blue jay. The blue jay has been incredibly, they're always very present in my yard and my world. They get special treats that are just for the blue jays. And the squirrels have to learn exactly their part and not be selfish and greedy either. But the blue jay is a representative, or one of the many symbolic forms of the blue jay is courage and fearlessness and truth and communication. Be bold, speak your mind, stand your ground, facing adversity, and to be fiercely protective. Blue jays are fiercely protective of their families. So this collective consciousness theme, as I've said, of not having the protection, not having someone truly standing for and with you and behind you. And yet we have the blue jay coming forward. We have this card. We have this week the winds and clouds that represent change and movement, very quick change and movement. And we have the amplituhedron that's helping us. And I'm going to ask for a couple of oils to further that today. And then drop in, because all of this is in the mix. If you're not familiar with my work, this is an alchemical container. It's actually been being filled, being added to for about 10 days, I'd say, but certainly this last week, with occurrences with clients, with different things that they've been receiving, with different helpers that have come forward, with colleagues, with constant, presencing. This is what our world around us, that mirroring that I was referring to, they presence themselves. They offer and offer and offer. Blue Jay has been very present in a way that it wasn't before. As I said, they're here every day. But they showed up this week in a way that they haven't. So you just learn when someone and something is speaking to you. And that comes when and as you are so deeply connected to yourself that you are receiving, you're in the midst of all of this communication and connection and collaboration and cooperation and communion. So let me just, I have the oils, the Young Living oils. It's a huge case I have. I don't know if you can see it at all, but it's hard to see. I have about 200 different oils here, and these Young Living oils are the only ones I'll use because the only ones that I have found that still have the wisdom of the plant and the ability to connect and truly collaborate and cooperate. One of the articles that I'll try to post later is a recent finding of plants having consciousness, that there is now evidence. I'm just trying to find it. Sorry. I'll post it. But it was even more evidence that plants have consciousness. And those of you who are deeply connected with your plants know that. I have ones that get angry. I have ones that are not happy with being next door to somebody else. They actually will let you know. And that's why I love these particular oils, because the man who created them made sure that they were done at a very slow temperature for a long period of time, which did not kill the chi, which actually brings out the optimum amount and synergistic combination of constituents within each plant, then therefore within each blend. So they're utterly amazing. I choose these with my eyes closed. I do this kinesthetically. So I am just simply going to ask them what they may have to say, and I interpret what they're saying by what the sense of the oil is and where it would go on our body, representing our energy field as well, and the psycho-emotional symbology or representation of that area of the body. So this oil, this is beautiful. This is an oil called Hinoki, and for me it represents abject beauty. And so they're saying that as you come to realize the abject beauty of you, of your, within your sense of yourself, it will enable you. They're very funny, and my clients know this. I mean, we're working on something, and I close each session. I seal each session with an anointing and message from the oils, and I'll pull an oil and show it to them, and we're both cracking up because it is so on target to what we just worked with and transmuted, and they're evident that they're right there with me because I have my eyes closed. So this oil would be going on your throat if you were here physically, and it is rose, the highest frequency of all the oils, because of the it takes a great deal. It takes 5,000 pounds of rose petals to make 1 pound of rose oil. So it's very precious and therefore very expensive. And what they're saying is when and as you realize the beauty in your sense of the abject beauty of who you are and your place in the world, it will enable you to stand in the highest frequency of your truth and express that truth and receive that truth back to you. So, I'm sorry, they just are funny. This is an oil blend called Motivation, and it's going on your innate, which is that place I mentioned earlier of that is where your direct communication to your soul. This is you on a soul basis trying to communicate and speak to you. And as I mentioned earlier, when we're children, we have to shut that down because it's telling us what is right and what is good and how it should be. And what's coming at us is quite the contrary. So, as I said earlier, our choice is to just shut that down and go with what will allow us to live and survive. So this is an oil called motivation, and it would be going right on your innate. So being motivated solely by your innate. In other words, only motivated by what feels truly right and good to you, as I mentioned. Not the trends, not society, not someone outside, not if I don't, then I won't. But what is this saying? And again, we have to relearn how to hear and understand how that speaks, because it's not always in nice, clear English sentences. It's in symbols, it's in metaphor, it's in a representation like a blue jay or like the wind or plants. Anybody else? Thereby enabling you to be in harmony with the essence of who you are. This is an oil blend called Harmony. Anybody else? Anchoring in, this is thieves, which represents that which was stolen from you. So when we're talking about these levels of protection, when we're talking about this way in which we are primal, primordial, instinctual, intuitive, biological, energetic little systems expect to be able to anchor into our bodies, anchor into our being, anchor in and through that onto this planet. And when these protections and securities and safety, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, energetically, do not occur, then we are not anchored. We are not anchored in us. We are not anchored in our being. We are not anchored in our body. We are not anchored on this planet. So retrieving or bringing back to you that anchoring that was taken from you. One last one. So that you can come to honor who you are and your heart's desires. And that's an oil called Laurus nobilis, or laurel. So we have this container that's been going on all this week, mixing and churning and more ingredients. This is the alchemy. This is the potential for magic, for the lead to turn into gold. And it must have all the different ingredients, all that which appears harmful and destructive and dark and negative, as well as the wondrous and the beautiful, like the connection to the world around us, the beauty of nature that we receive so much from. So many wonderful things that happened this week as well. All of it is in the mix. All these beautiful events, friends connecting, holidays, special events. So much is in this container for anyone who listens to this at any point in the future. There is no time beyond this particular, or let's say time is radically different. It does not have this linear form outside of this 3D reality. So that listening a year from now you will still have been in this mix now and receive exactly the transmission that is right for you. And so we're mixing and stirring, and I'm calling in, as always, Lady Gaia, the earth, who is in direct relationship with us. If and when we choose. This is an earth project. Everyone's involved. Everyone, everything. Every insect, every tree, every cloud, every form, every non-visible being. This is the greatest project in the universe because it is directly related to our galaxy, our cluster of galaxies, the universe itself, all under evolutionary acceleration here and now. So just allow yourself, I know that's a lot of information, a lot of emotional swirling and mixing, and perhaps even, hopefully, dismantling or untangling, giving you a greater opportunity, giving your soul the opening to be able to reach you and show you and teach you in a way that you may not have been aware. And as always, we call in the elements: earth, air, fire, water, minerals and metals, all those basic building blocks of the universe, and certainly of this 3D movie that we are experiencing and living in. And so I invite you to just feel your seat, feel your sits bones if you know where they are. If not, just simply let yourself feel the weight of yourself on the chair or the couch or the floor, whatever you may be seated upon. And if you can, allow a little bit more that couch, that chair, that floor, that ground to hold you instead of you having to hold yourself up. And to allow you to do that even more, I encourage you to roll your shoulders back and allow your shoulder blades just gently come a little bit closer to one another, which opens up more space within your torso. It allows for more energy flow upward and downward through your body, your spine, your kundalini, and many other structures of the energy field. And just breathe. Breathe as you are normally breathing. No effort, no push. Just breathe and feel your body, your energy field. If you're able. And I'm going to also call in and call upon the directions of the east, the west, the south, the north, the above, the below, and the within. But this is how we navigate this reality. So in great gratitude for all of these helpers that are coming forward to be with us at this point in time and out of time. Time being one of those helpers. For when we look at reality or experience our reality solely from this 3D form, it appears that we are confined, limited, and restricted by linear time. That something will take a great deal of time to change, or build, or become. When in fact time is and can be instantaneously experienced. This is where magic shows up. You all have seen many instances of it in story and movie and song where it changes. An entire world can change in an instant. And as always, we have the new way of spiritual law. And our master gatekeeper to close all doors, portals, passageways, and bridges that can in any way cause harm, allowing you to be free to open and allow all parts of you to come forward and receive. There's nothing you need do. There is no effort. There is no work involved in allow. It is simply receiving the offerings that are here for you, exactly tailored for you. And so now let your mind take a back seat, and you need not even follow any words I might speak, for they are merely conduits and means by which energetics are transmitted to you into this container. And to allow you to be aware that we are still in this moment, recording with you. And if you feel called to take a little bit deeper breath and extend the exhale even longer than the inhale, you may find yourself in a deeper, relaxed state. You may even find yourself falling into what some refer to as a light sleep, or that moment between sleeping and awakening, or even a theta state, for I am going to amplify and deepen and take us in a little more deeply to the healing container, the cauldron, the crucible within which these patterns, these wounds, these issues, these manifestations on larger scale are all blending and churning and creating and developing and alchemizing one another. These are ingredients, constituents that have never before come together in this way, with those participants in this moment or in any moment of time that tune in. And again, if you want to do some breathing, that's fine. If not, simply allow yourself to receive, to imbibe, to intake the alchemical magic that is here. And very exactly tailored for you as needed and desired by you, by your soul, for optimum change, growth, movement, widening, deepening of you. On all levels of your being, as designed by your soul for your ultimate benefit. highest potential. You may feel some movement within your tissues, glands, or cells. As there is some deep cleansing going on right at the moment. Maybe experiencing some settling or deepening of your very being. And again, no need to concentrate, no need to focus, no need to follow anything but what you are experiencing in you, through you, as you, from you, toward you, for you. Simply allow. No work, no do. Your soul's wisdom knows exactly what is right for you. And some of you may be experiencing this deep anchoring, this rooting of you in you. Know that you are rooting into your life, this land, whatever land you find yourself on, into this planet, into this country, into this world, the you that you desire. And thereby allowing the world you desire to be your reality. Our reality. For everything you desire is exactly right, and what she and he and I and they desire is being put into that mix. And as always, I invite you to stay in these energetics if you so choose. And whenever you decide to, or choose to, whenever your soul dictates it's right for you to come back to this more physical experience, please allow your system to determine the pace and way and speed at which you do so. Some quick announcements. The Sacred Sisterhood Circle is going to be opened up again, and that's the third Wednesday of every month. We'll be working with forms of nature, current themes, what everyone is bringing to the table, seasons, cycles, really all of nature and the earth is going to determine the theme each month. And that starts at 7 p.m. And again, it's every third Wednesday of the month starting in June. Other courses are coming up. Try to post. And I'm looking to have a short meditation, just a drop in on Memorial Day, and I will post both this and that one on my YouTube channel, A Healer's Universe, that has probably over 200 and something videos on there that I encourage you to choose through intuitive means, i.e. scanning either the images or the titles, and whichever one your system tells you is the right one, even though it may be from 5 years ago. The energetic combination in there is exactly right for you in that moment. Other than that, I wish everyone here in the United States to have a beautiful, safe, fun Memorial Day weekend holiday, and to please recognize, I'm going to be sending out something in writing as well, recognize what this holiday is really about. Not necessarily commercial materialism and just eating, but please recognize that this is a means of remembering those that may not have people and ways of being remembered for having gone through horrible wars, battles, and that we come to this point in history where these are the last wars that will take place on this planet. That is my wish and prayer, and I'm offering that to anyone to choose. That these conflicts and wars and battles that are going on right now are the very last time we as humans will experience this. We'll have to choose that for expansion. No more. War no more. Be well, and as always, it is with the greatest of honor, gratitude, and love for your presence here on the planet. Until next time, be well.